Well, hello everyone. It is December 1st, and it is time for This Week in Crypto at CoinRoutes, and we're going to cover a couple of weeks because with Thanksgiving we took some time off. Why don't we start with Carl with the market recap?
What a week, guys. It's been a phenomenal week, not just in crypto, but in the markets in general. We got Bitcoin up 3.5% on the week, Ethereum tailing a bit at 1.5%. The dollar sold off late into the week this week. The S&P closing up to those late June highs earlier this year. Gold, what a phenomenal week, up 3.5%, and other metals as well, like silver up 5%. I know you like that part.
Not bad. Yeah, I mean, the backdrop of this, the big story last week and into this week is Binance. So, I mean, Jacob, what are your thoughts to kick us off on that one? Because it's a pretty big settlement, the largest settlement in U.S. SEC, or not SEC, in U.S. corporate history, actually.
Well, I think glancing at the headlines, it's very easily to take this as a negative thing. I, on the contrary, think the actual opposite. I think this is an absolutely great thing for our industry, and I don't think people realize how much money was sidelined due to fear. We had a lot of clients of ours personally talk about people in the industry and say, hey, maybe we were planning on spinning up a strategy, but it got completely paused, right? A lot of TradFi money was absolutely sidelined after the FTX event. So to see the bad actors go to jail from FTX, a lot of leverage washout in the market as well, right? The market was over leveraged, there were a bunch of bad actors. That was all washed out in this last bear market. So to see Binance get regulated, to see them have to file those reports you were mentioning earlier.
Yeah,
I think
suspicious activity reports, otherwise known as SARs for those who care about geek regulations.
I think it can give investors more confidence in investing in the biggest crypto exchange, and I think it's just overall positive for the entire industry.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, the funniest part of the whole thing is I was surprised that it was a muted reaction. And the reason it was a muted reaction, we've since found out, the Block reported that there was a dinner in Singapore during the big token event where the VIP traders, the biggest traders on Binance, more or less were told that a $4 billion settlement was coming, and more or less were told that Binance was going to be able to handle paying it and operations are going to continue. And whether they were told that CZ was going to step down, we're not 100% sure, but he wasn't at that dinner, so it's highly likely that was the case. In any event, that seems to ring true. The market reaction kind of is indicative of that, but it is impossible to underestimate how many people thought that the risk of Binance taking customer assets down with them would create a forced selling event, was capping the market's rally. That is something, a narrative I personally heard, I mean, dozens of
Everyone
times.
did. That was the word on the street, right? Binance is going to go down, the next one's to go down, and then all of a sudden, you know what, they're fine with settling $4.5 billion. So, all positive news. I agree with you, Jacob. I think this is great. In other words, I think a lot of U.S. companies are going to be able to learn from this and say, what can we do, what can we do? They're going to be punished for doing what they did, and we're moving on from there.
Right, and it's important to understand what they're being punished for. They're being punished for avoiding effectively the Patriot Act and anti-money laundering sanctions and allowing people to trade and mislabeling U.S. investors or traders on their platform. There was a funny email about how they decided to change it to UNKWN, standing for unknown, even though they knew full well where they were, that kind of thing. Those are the sorts of smoking gun emails that prosecutors love. We'll just leave it at that. Here's a pro tip. Don't put anything in email if you think that a prosecutor is going to be able to use it against you later. I mean, the best tip is don't do anything illegal, but hey, even if you aren't going to do something illegal, don't write about it as if you are. Don't even joke about it because it could come back.
Just don't say it.
It's better. So let's talk about, there's a lot of bullish stories this week, but let's start with one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's so much positive sentiment in the market right now. I mean, for one, we've seen the largest influx of capital moving into the crypto firms in general this week in all of 2023. We also see Saylor purchasing his biggest amount of Bitcoin since 2021, showing, God bless Saylor. If there's anyone who's received more public scrutiny than him, and he's just been diligent, keeping his head down, staying strong to his beliefs, and we thank him in the crypto community. I do, at least.
I mean, look, it's hard to argue, with his thesis. I have a very similar thesis to him, and he, like me, believes that we need to bridge from crypto into TradFi. Not we need to make crypto like TradFi. Oh, no. because we think we're doing things better in the digital space. We think it's more efficient. We think it has less economic rent. We think the intermediaries, there's a lot of excess intermediation that can go away.
Yeah.
But there's lots of stuff going on. And as far as Bitcoin is concerned, a monetary instrument that is based purely upon energy, that's fully native digitally in the new world, makes a lot more sense than boomer rocks, aka
That's
gold,
right, yeah.
despite how well gold is doing. And look, I'm not going to lie, I've been a sound money guy and a gold guy for a very long time, but obviously much more into Bitcoin, over the last 5 years.
I'm not old enough to like gold.
Yeah, well, there you go, boomer rocks.
Just too young.
You got to have
Just
gray,
not-
like others. But anyway, so there's that, and then the other big story this week that's also bullish is the ETF approval analysis. Now, I listen and participate in Crypto Town Hall with these guys multiple times a week. So, Eric and James from Bloomberg, they're basically postulating, based on their SEC sources, that there's around a 90% chance that between the 5th and the 10th of January, the SEC is going to do an en masse approval. Why? Because they don't want to be seen to be giving favoritism to BlackRock or Fidelity. I don't know if it's true. I mean, it would be good if it was true because it actually makes sense to do it that way. But it's a big deal. If that happens, just think about how many salespeople are going to be pushing the Bitcoin narrative to the entire investing public in the United States. Think about it. I mean,
I've got a question. How long after the ETF gets approved will your average mom, dad, grandma have access to this kind of asset class?
I'm not
without
sure.
going on Coinbase
Probably
or
weeks. Probably a few weeks, but the marketing will start immediately.
Sure.
And so that's the important thing. And then you have to figure out how to synchronize and buy the assets so that there's no slippage. The whole thing, and we had a long conversation internally about this yesterday, but the fact is the reason the spot ETF is such a good deal for people is because you can always buy, you can always take Bitcoin and convert it to the ETF if the ETF goes at a discount, and you could always sell the ETF
And collect
collect Bitcoin if it goes at a premium. So it always stays very close, as opposed to the futures ETF where you have to buy futures. Which leads me to the next story, which is really interesting. And we published a piece about this a couple weeks ago, but then last week and again today, the premium on the futures, the December futures, got so high that it's incredibly obvious that the rally we saw today to almost 39,000 was led by U.S. buying. Now, just to put the math on this, the typical premium for a full month has been around 1%, which is high, okay? Because we all know interest rates, that's 12% interest, 1% times 12, right? We all know interest rates are much lower than that. No matter how you look at the prime rate, it's probably 8%. So there's some premium that's generally built into the futures contract. But what's happened during these bull runs is it's gone over 2%. So what does that mean? That means people are paying 1% more to buy these futures, and they're going to lose that percent when it expires and they have to roll to the next contract. But it is indicative of where the buying is coming from. So for the first time in a rally, it's being led from the United States, not led from Asia or Europe. And so that matters, and we're seeing all that. And that's why these stories are relevant.
And just real quick shout out, if you all out there didn't already know, you can now trade the Bitcoin futures through CoinRoutes, through CME.
Not only that, you can actually do the arbitrage. So
That's
you
right.
can arbitrage, we have clients arbitraging it versus various iPerps on different futures exchanges or different perpetual swap exchanges. You can also do it versus spot. You can also do calendar spreads through our process. And that will allow you to trade it. And if you look at the volatility of that, there's money to be made there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
The other thing I would add to that is that it's futures led and it's US based, like you said. But imagine what happens when the ETF gets approved. This is futures led with the amount of money currently invested in Bitcoin in the US. What happens when the ETF opens up a whole new pipelines, right? That's how I'm thinking about it.
How much capital can we expect to actually migrate into the crypto space once the ETF gets approved? We all are in agreement here that the ETF is going to be positive. There's positive sentiment all over the market right now. Everything's looking bullish. What can we really realistically expect from an ETF approval? How much capital from all the separately managed asset accounts can actually make their way into crypto? What would you guys at least hypothesize?
The best estimate that I'm hearing from people who I respect is around 10 billion in the first year, and it could be double that if it really takes off. Look, certainly there's a number of people. A lot of the people buying the BITO futures-based ETF are going to sell it to buy the spot ETF. So that premium is going to collapse. There's no doubt when that happens. So there's going to be some selling pressure. But it's important, and as we were talking about beforehand, it's not like when futures went live. When the CME futures were approved, that was the top tick of that rally. And that was the day that it hit like 19,000 or so. 17,000 on Kraken. We talked about that to death, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the literal top tick was the day it went live. Why? Well, because futures gave people the only ability in the U.S. to be able to short the market. Well, you have the futures now. You can short the market if you want.
Yeah.
So the spot ETF doesn't help you sell the market. So it won't be the top tick the same way. But there are people who are buying in advance of that, hoping to sell to the new buyers. And the new buyers may not come in as fast as they think. So the one constant in Bitcoin, it's volatility. I would not make any assumptions about how it's going to get there. The fact that I personally believe that we will see new all-time highs over the next 12 to 18 months and potentially double the previous all-time high, that wouldn't surprise me at all, but it is not going to go in a straight line. There could be you can easily see retracements, and so just be careful out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shall we have our predictions?
Well,
now?
before we do the
short term,
predictions,
midterm, talk to me. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one other story that has to be said, and it's relevant to DeFi as well. And that is that there's someone from the Treasury stood up in front of the Blockchain Association talking about how illicit, donating to terrorists and whatnot needs to be controlled.
Yeah. I mean, look, it just sounds like beating a dead horse at this point. When I first got into the crypto market, that narrative made a little more sense, right? The adoption of Bitcoin, while there were some speculators, there were some people who saw it as a true store of value. One of the main use cases was for darknet activities, for maybe hiding your funds, whatnot. Where it has evolved to today is a completely different thing.
I mean, the funniest part about all of this is the FBI keeps telling anybody who will listen that they love it when the bad guys use Bitcoin. They love it because they can trace it. and that's the funny thing is, so yeah, there is that. And look, there's no doubt that there's going to be some version of know your customer, that's KYC, involved in crypto intermediaries. There's no doubt that that's coming. The question of where that is and how much that is, and should that restrict you and I from making a bet on Bitcoin and being able to transfer a few $100s in crypto among ourselves, the answer to us as Americans is hell no.
Compliance
we don't want that.
Compliance for the most part, I mean, if you do it the right way, can stimulate growth.
That's right. There needs to be a balance between privacy for individual transactions and commercial things. Just like you can use cash right now to buy a dinner. You could use cash to buy a lot of things. Try walking with a briefcase full of cash to buy a condo these days and see what happens to you. Right? Yeah. And crypto should be the same.
Yeah.
We all agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
DeFi shout out.
Yeah, guys, so we wanted to make a very important announcement on This Week in Crypto. CoinRoutes DeFi product is officially out of beta. So now our clients can seamlessly trade between CeFi and DeFi venues. A lot of interesting opportunities with the algorithm suite we have, with spread, being able to capture basis point difference between assets on DeFi, CeFi. There's hedge legs on DeFi you can do. There's a lot of ways you can access this DeFi product. And the way you access it is the same exact way as trading to a normal CeFi venue in CoinRoutes. Once you connect your wallet, it's the same thing as choosing to trade at Binance, right? So it's going to allow our customers to seamlessly trade there, and a lot of opportunities are going to be born. So go to coinroutes.com/DeFi to check it out. We're all super excited about it.
Okay, prediction time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no. Should we do our bet? I'd like to make a bet with you. I think we see. Well, this is ambitious. I'm just bearish, but I think we see. And I need you to give me odds on this too. I think we see 31.5 before 40. What are you willing to put on it?
I mean,
I'll put up a McDonald's meal. You put up Peter Luger.
Well, Peter Luger's in New York. I'm not flying into New York.
Fly it in.
Put it this way. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I think you're out of your mind. But, look, anything's possible. There could be, who knows? There could be some horrible geopolitical event this weekend, some catastrophe that could cause anything to happen. But look, in my opinion, the same as when I bet Jacob several weeks ago that we'd knock on 40 before, I forgot what you had, 25?
Add 29.5.
29.5.
No, great.
6 to 1.
What was it trading at then?
Don't need to double up on the bet. It was
Okay.
trading right around halfway in between the two.
Yep.
Look, I'm not doubling up on the bet because my timing in my career has been menza. My directional predictions in my career have been like really good. I'm very bullish long term, probably more so today than I ever have been. Mostly because without Binance to collapse the market, and even if the SEC says no to all the Bitcoin ETFs, I think that it's still a question of if, of when, not if. I mean,
You've been saying that a lot recently.
and that matters. It does matter, but it's not just about ETFs. The thing that people need to understand is it's about legitimacy. To the extent that everybody believes that Bitcoin is a legitimate asset, what's the portfolio allocation in a standard portfolio?
Yep.
Just do the math. If the standard portfolio allocation was 1%, not 0, 1%, there isn't enough Bitcoin at these prices to satisfy that. Think of it this way. There's 40 million millionaires in the world and 21 million Bitcoin. We'll do that math. And Bitcoin at these prices just doesn't fit. It will eventually be much higher, but as I said, it will very volatile on the way there.
What I like about this bull run is comparing it to the other runs we've experienced. It seems like the stars are aligning in my mind, right? You have the spot ETF about to get approved. I think Binance being regulated is massive for our community. I think it's going to do nothing but help this run. People are going to feel safe, and once that ETF gets approved, maybe they'll go load up on derivatives at Binance.
It's interesting how similar this bull run in particular, or maybe not, but so far it's displayed very similar characteristics to what the other ones have, right? I mean, it's all happening right before the halving. You mentioned the ETF, Binance compliance, FTX been washed out. Dave made a great point that before all the bull runs really catalyze, we see a washout. Well, I think we might have had that with the whole FTX thing.
So they felt like it.
Yeah, it felt like it. We felt it. I'm sure most of you out there felt it, and we're here for on the same journey and praying for the best.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're believers in digital assets, and we think that the stars are aligning. But the fact is it's a very volatile market, and you need to be careful. You need to have good tools to be able to trade it, and that's what we're all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining us this week. Always a pleasure. Comment, like, subscribe, and come check us out on our website.